back to the very beginning of this room and how it came to be.
Okay, well, the original room, so it was 2019. I was teaching a group of seniors Hamlet, which is absolute torture. But I don't care how creative of a teacher you are, it can be very, very difficult to try to get students through Hamlet. So we got through Hamlet, and so the next unit was Holocaust, and we were going to read Night, and it means so much to me. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to read it to them so that I know they hear it and they're not taking it home and skipping reading and not doing what they're supposed to do with it, because it's too important. So I read them, and I figured, who doesn't like to be read to? So I read it to them, and when I finished, in that last line with the corpse was gazing back at me, I could have heard a pin drop, and I figured, oh, great, they just don't care. And then they all kind of looked at one another, and then they looked at me, and they were like, we would like to know more. And I was like, that's my opening. Every teacher wants to hear that. Every teacher, you want to know more.
Right
yes, that was like the moment that nobody ever gets, the unicorn moment. And I said, okay. So at that point, I Google searched, like, what are Holocaust survivors? Like, where can I find them? And I did. I did it. And I found the Jewish Federation with the Greater Metro West, and they sent us 2 survivors, and we did a school-wide assembly, and then we got a trip to the Museum of Jewish Heritage, and then I was like, it would be cool if we could have like a corner of the library. So I wrote a grant. I got $1,000 for books. Cool if we could have a corner of the library where we kind of house these things and do this learning. And then I was like, or we go bigger. And then the next year, as I was thinking, go bigger, COVID shut the world down. So I went home and signed up for a master's, because who doesn't do that while the world is shut down? Like, oh, there's a second master's. And also I know Stockton has an incredible center. So I reached out to them, and I joined their master's program. And through that, I was like, I could do a center in the school. Like, we could do one. Nobody has that. I haven't found any. So that became my capstone, but it was really something that was already in existence. So it wasn't like I took the courses and I was like, oh, I need a project, let me do this. It was already there. It pre-existed joining. I wanted the knowledge, though. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I've got to be able to put, the knowledge behind it. So when we got the space, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this? So that was the year that I had the group, my original group, that I said to them, it was actually sitting in study hall, and I was trying to make a plan for this room. And I come through and I was like, hey, you guys want to help me with something? And they're used to this. Every single one of my students know. When you hear me say, hey, like, oh, here we go. And I said, hey, you guys want to help me with something? And they got up, they were like, sure. And the rest is history. They started painting. They started hanging out in there, and more ideas. And then my other classes came in, and I was like, oh, let's do this. And Abby, and like, it just took off. And they started inspiring me. And then Stockton donated books to us, and I reached out the wooden artwork in there as a former student, actually a graduate of Kittatinny. So out to him, and I said, can you do this stuff for me? And he said, absolutely, I'd be pleased to do it. And he came through with everything. And then we organized this really big ribbon cutting where Maud Dami came and spoke, and Ann Arnold, Mark Schaumetter's daughter, came and spoke. And our choir chamber, was it the choir chamber? Yeah, they came, they sang, and we had it catered. And then we had a beautiful ribbon across there, and we did a whole thing. We have the video of it. It's great. It gives me chills every time I see it. We talked about our mission statement, and they surprised them with a plaque with their names on it, so that they're always remembered for being the original group. And then after that, they were honored by the New Jersey Department of Ed for their work. And then they got the Youth in Action award. And it just started to tumble. It was really, really great. It was a lot of just amazing things the students made come to life.